You may have had the chance to see some of the footage shot by our cameraman in the Gaza Strip, widely shared online, showing a group of men waving a white flag, representing no threat whatsoever, unarmed, and moving south to try and reach some relatives. The IDF opened fire, as you can see on that video, and killed one of them.
Well, the State Department has really had a rough go at things during their press conferences as journalists actually decide to ask some pretty tough questions in regard to the United States support for Israel, even as IDF soldiers are caught on camera committing war crimes. Now, during a recent State Department press conference, you have the deputy spokesperson, his name is Vedant Patel, basically confronted by not one, not two, but three different reporters who had some pretty hard-hitting questions, and they specifically wanted to know what the State Department had to say about recent footage that was shot by a UK outlet known as ITV News, showing the IDF shooting and killing an innocent Palestinian who was waving a white flag. And if you're unfamiliar with that story or that incident, we did cover it this week, but we do have the video ready so you can see what we're talking about. It is difficult to watch, but here it is.
These pictures were filmed by a cameraman working for ITV News in Gaza. As he moved forwards towards the combat zone, he noticed this group of men doing their utmost to appear non-threatening, trying to proceed with care. They wanted to reach two other family members and get them out of harm's way.
عندي الحجة واخويا وعنده حوالي 50 نازح او 70 نازح موجودين في البيت الثاني اللي يخش علينا لو طلعونا واخويا ما طلعوش بدنا نروح يعني نطلع ان شاء الله.
The interview complete, our cameraman walked away. And then this happened. The interviewee had been shot and fatally wounded. You can see them place their flag on his chest. As he was carried away, the white flag was turning red.
All right, that is a difficult video to watch, especially since you literally see him in his final moments speaking to reporters with ITV News, and then the IDF decides to kill him. Anyway, the IDF alleges that ITV edited the footage. There's no evidence of any editing. We all saw what happened. The fact that the IDF carries out these types of war crimes, knowing that there's a cameraman there, by the way, is amazing and shows you how brazen some of these attacks are. And we'll hear from the State Department on what they think about that incident. Not good, but do you want to jump in on that, Cenk, before we do?
Yeah, I do. So, guys, if you still believe that Israel is trying their utmost not to kill civilians, but golly gee, they just happened to kill 25,500 of them, which is more than 1% of the entire population of Gaza, wounded 63,000, whether it's Israeli hostages or Palestinian civilians that hold up white flags, get murdered on the spot, no questions asked. You think that's all still an accident? No, if you're in the very small group of people who still think that, you're so biased you can't see straight. No one else on earth thinks that. So IDF and the American government can do all the propaganda they want, but we all have eyes, we all have ears. We see these guys getting murdered, yes, murdered on a daily basis. And yes, Netanyahu's government has done 20 times the terrorism of Hamas by murdering those civilians in Gaza.
Now, it's notable that Patel did not say at any point during this press conference that the footage might have been edited. So apparently he didn't touch base with the IDF to make sure that they have their talking points straight. But he did try to avoid having to answer any questions about it with this weak excuse. Let's watch.
I am not going to comment on the specifics around that, given I'm not aware of the full circumstances on the ground. And as we've said before, this is not an American operation. I'm just going to refrain from commenting on specific operations, as we do not have full circumstances of what on the ground from here. This isn't an American operation. I'm not on the ground there to speak to the full parameters of the situation.
I don't know. I mean, look, if I recall correctly, and I could be mistaken, I might have been hallucinating, maybe this didn't happen. But if I recall correctly, Cenk, when it came to war crimes carried out by our enemies or adversaries, people like Vladimir Putin, for instance, seems like the State Department has no problem discussing and openly talking about those war crimes, even without our troops being on the ground, even without the United States being, on the ground involved in that war, other than, of course, supporting Ukraine militarily.
Yeah, that's a great point, Anna. And also without 100% confirmation. So when the Russians do something in Ukraine, we call them out instantaneously. We don't go, hey, we need a couple of weeks and we need to check with the Russian government and make sure that they're okay with us telling you what actually happened. And then after we get their permission, we'll come back to you guys. Never said in the case of the Russian government. Honestly, not said that often for even allies. So Turkey's a huge ally, second largest army in NATO, and they do plenty of things wrong. And the American government usually calls them out right away, right? But as we all know, and if you're pretending that Israel does not have a special exception for every rule, you're so blinded by bias you can't see straight. We all have eyes. So this guy, he's in an unenviable position. We all get it, right? He's not the one that came up with the policy. Having said that, the reporters did a great job, 3 different reporters pressing him about half a dozen times to answer the damn question. So did you check with the Israelis or didn't you? What did they say? What didn't they say? Etc. And he never answers any of the questions because his job as a representative of the US government is to kiss Israel's ass and to never tell you the truth about what they're doing, and to evade all responsibility. So he'll do that the next day and the day after that. He'll never come out and say, oh yeah, by the way, of course, I watched the video. We all watched the video. Obviously they murdered him, obviously. And then if you ask them and they do, the second follow-up question, that's even more unanswerable. Yes, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to do anything about it? We're the ones giving them $4 billion a year. We want to give them an extra $14 billion now. Joe Biden gave them $250 million without even asking Congress. So are you going to do anything about Israel constantly murdering civilians? And the answer is hell no. Now he doesn't want to say that on tape, but that has been 100% the reality. So he has to go out there and evade and look like a schmuck who's obviously a liar, which is exactly what the government asked him to do.
Yeah, what a terrible job. I would hate to provide cover for what's currently transpiring in Gaza. Now, let's cue up B5 because I do want to give a lot of credit to these reporters for asking the types of questions they're asking, namely when it comes to alleged war crimes that are being committed by the Israeli government and the IDF. So let's hear how he answered that question.
Did you actually reach out specifically to Israel about this footage and try to get whatever the facts that you guys are seeking?
This footage just arose earlier this morning, so I don't have any specifics of our diplomatic conversations around this to speak to.
How about the footage that arose last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before, where there have been, if not similar, awfully close instances? Have you ever gotten an explanation from the Israelis? Have you ever gotten a finding from the Israelis of what their investigation, if they promised one?
I'm not going to speak to private diplomatic conversations, Matt, but this is something that we raise continuously with the Israelis. The secretary has done so, other officials in our government have done so, and will continue to do it.
Okay, well, have you ever gotten an answer from the Israelis?
I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna speak to the privacy of certain diplomatic conversations, Matt. But we have been clear that there is a moral and strategic imperative to take as many steps as possible to minimize civilian casualties.
That's fine.
So 2 points I want to just make, and then I'll toss it over to you, Cenk. Number one, I don't know what the point of these press conferences are if they're not going to answer any questions. And if they're just going to deflect or say that they're unable to talk about closed door meetings or diplomatic conversations, okay, then this is a useless meeting with you. There's no point in hearing anything you have to say because you're not saying anything at all. The other point I want to make is I think Israel has finally managed to accomplish something that I didn't think was possible. Their handling of the war on Gaza is so unbearably difficult to stomach that journalists, either they have no choice, but they feel compelled to ask the types of questions they're asking during these press conferences. This is not something that was indicative of press conferences having to do with Israel in the past. It just wasn't. Everyone they towed the line. They went along with the US's undying, devoted, unmitigated support for Israel, and then they called it a day. And things have changed, and it's because you can't deny the footage that's coming out of the Gaza Strip. You can't deny how many innocent civilians have died. You can't deny the weird double standard in which, one side chanting, from the river to the sea is considered genocidal terrorists, and the Israeli government saying that is totally fine. That hypocrisy, that double standard is so obvious. So, you saw the reporters who asked those questions, Cenk. They're not some young whippersnapper, woke, reporters from the New York Times. They're seasoned journalists who are like, I don't know, man. Looks like an innocent person was just shot and killed even as he was waving a white flag.
Yeah, and look, in mainstream media, now this is Associated Press and Reuters, some of these reporters, and they're usually the best of the lot. The print journalists are usually better than the TV guys, et cetera. And the New York Times, Washington Post have been pretty good on this issue relative to their past coverage, right? And so it's damning with faint praise a little bit, but these guys are usually a little bit better, but they're still not overall not well known for grilling the American government. They usually accept whatever the hell the American government says and put it in the paper as if it's real. Here, I think Anna's 100% right, where people are like, look guys, this is insulting to our intelligence. We see the video clear as day, and you keep telling us that it's not a big deal and the Israelis don't kill civilians. It's now beyond absurd. We can't even contain ourselves anymore. So journalism is breaking out because they just can't help it. And so now look, last things here. In terms of his answers, we raise these questions, he said, over and over again with our Israeli partners. Yes, but do they ever answer them? And the answer is no, they don't. They go, who do you think you are? No, we're in charge. Shut up and tell the reporters that we're awesome and that the innocent people we killed are terrorists. Shut up, Patel, and get out there and tell them that. And he does, because that's his job. So now, in terms of humiliation, I mean, you see what the Palestinians live with. But now it's gotten to the point where this war has become humiliating for Americans.
100%, yes.
Because now we look like we're the GIMP that they're trotting out here, and this poor guy, Patel, comes out there and he's like, it's almost like he's got that mask on, and he's like, yes, Israel is always right. I mean, I don't have eyes. I saw the video, but I can't tell if he's dead. I can't tell if he's a civilian. I can't tell anything. What else should I say, Israel? What else should I say?
But aside
it's
from
humiliating.
That, it is
humiliating.
But aside from that, aside from this one press conference, it's the repeated headlines about how the Biden administration is urging Netanyahu to do targeted strikes, urging Netanyahu to do more to protect the lives of Palestinian civilians. And then the follow-up statements from Netanyahu himself or other members of the Israeli government essentially saying, no, we're gonna do it. We're gonna intensify our operations. That's what's happened now several times, where you'll hear, either Kirby or Anthony Blinken saying, okay, they're getting ready to pivot to a low intensity stage of the war. And then what does Israel do immediately after that? They intensify their military operations. Lately, it's been in Khan Yunis, in southern Gaza. Yeah, that is humiliating for the American government and honestly, the American people. Are we okay with this? Because we're funding this. We're offering the military weaponry, the 2,000-pound bombs for the Israeli government and the IDF to carry this out. Are we okay with that? I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, so last thing here is that there's a Trump analogy here. Netanyahu is treating Biden like Trump treats Tim Scott.
Totally.
And in the old days, Chris Christie and all these guys, Lindsey Graham, that he humiliates ritualistically. He points to them and goes, now come here. To betray the people that got you here, say nice things about me, and then he'll look at them and he'll make fun of them, right? And that's how Netanyahu is treating Biden. So Biden goes, oh, we're trying to get them to show restraint. Netanyahu comes out and goes, I'm not going to show any restraint, and I'm not going to do the two-state solution, and there's nothing Biden can do about it. And Biden's like, it's pathetic. And as an American, I feel humiliated watching our president grovel at the feet of a tiny little country that we are funding. It makes it like if you came out from outer space and you saw this dynamic, you'd think, oh my God, well, to be fair, America's probably getting 40 billion or 400 billion or 4 trillion from Israel, and they have to act like they're, their proxy state. No, we're giving them money.
Yep.
Except, let's be honest, guys. They're taking our money and giving it to Israel, but the Israeli lobby is giving money to our politicians. So those are bribes. AIPAC bribes Joe Biden, let's be honest. Democratic Majority for Israel has bribed a lot of Democrats, and AIPAC bribes tons of Republicans. So if you say, oh no, ExxonMobil doing campaign donation, that's a bribe, that's corruption. But AIPAC doing it, well, they're angels. God, come on,
and
no one believes that.
Don't forget the weapons manufacturers too, right?
Yes.
Because we give the money to Israel, and by the way, they talk about this when they hear people like us criticize the money we're giving to Israel. I've heard government officials say, well, they're complaining about that, but that money goes right back to the United States. You know what they mean when they say that, right? That money goes into the pockets of military contractors, weapons manufacturers, military contractors. That's exactly where the money goes. And they talk about that as if it somehow benefits the American people. It doesn't benefit the American people. And as we speak, we're getting dragged into a broader regional war. You have bombings happening in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen. This is a disaster.
Yeah, once the Supreme Court legalized bribes in America, of course everybody was gonna bribe American politicians, including corporations who depend on American politicians for their profits. They'd be nuts not to bribe them. But the problem is when defense contractors bribe American politicians, people die.
Yep.
What they want is for them to sell billions of dollars in military equipment to murder people. And they don't care who, they don't care why. They just want to sell the weapons to kill more people. And they paid these tiny little legalized bribes to sellouts like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and whoever else takes them, which is almost all of them. But the press, they did a great job in this case. But normally, you ask the press to ask the politicians about legalized bribes. Oh, no way. They all pretend like defense contractors have no power. That Biden and all the other politicians are just making political decisions based on their ideology. No, they're making the decisions based on the number and amount of bribes they have taken, period.